Welcome, Gunrunner.
PC エンジン512色スーパービジュアル6チャンネルリアルサウンドニューワールドを制覇する PC エンジン全開 NEC から。
The PC Engine and its North American sibling, the TurboGrafx 16, are well known to gamers across the world, but not very many people seem to be aware that the system was officially released in Europe too, albeit not quite as originally intended. I'm the Laird, and I bring you the story of the PAL TurboGrafx. For those that don't know, the original PC Engine was first released to Japanese customers in October 1987, where it quickly took the market by storm. Designed by Hudson Soft and manufactured by electronics giant NEC, it went straight into a head-on battle with the mighty Nintendo Famicom, also known to us Westerners as the Nintendo NES. While the PC Engine also featured a 6502-based 8-bit CPU, like Nintendo's machine, its custom 16-bit graphics hardware and highly adaptable 6-channel sound chip raised it well above its competition.
PC エンジン
シューティングフリークに挑戦 PC エンジン用ソフトエアロプラスター超スピード移植を実現し今発進地上から地上再衛星に突き進む選手の戦いエアロプラスター君の健闘を祈る
PC Engine's almost instant success saw a huge amount of publishers supporting the machine, with famous companies such as Capcom, Konami, Taito, Namco and Data East all producing games for the system. The PC Engine also became the first console to take advantage of the burgeoning CD-ROM format, when the Super CD-ROM add-on was released just over a year after the console's launch in December 1988. Japanese sales soared to well over 7 million, and the system wasn't discontinued until well into 1994, while new commercial titles were released for the PC Engine right up until 1999. With the PC Engine's success in the land of the rising sun, it only seemed natural that North American and European releases would follow. In August 1989, nearly 2 years after the Japanese launch, the console would finally be introduced to the North American audiences as the NEC TurboGrafx 16. This moniker was chosen to promote the console's superb 16-bit graphics, which was the key feature that put it above Nintendo's market-dominating entertainment system. But the name was not the only new thing about it though. The system had also been heavily redesigned and grown greatly in size. Test markets had shown that the American market lived by the phrase bigger is better. They had bigger cars, bigger meals and bigger houses, so naturally NEC thought that they wanted a bigger console too.
Are you one of us? 16-bit graphics, or one of them, 8-bit? Us. CD game sound. Them, not. Us. Them. Us. Turbo Express Portable. Us. Buy TurboGrafx 16 now and get one of 38 selected games free.
Now us European gamers, who are already familiar with the PC Engine thanks to mail-order import shops such as Telegames and magazines like CMVG, were eagerly awaiting the European launch of the console. NEC had actually taken out paid adverts in magazines encouraging consumers not to buy these modded grey market import machines, and instead asked people to wait for its official release. NEC had intended to follow the 1989 North American release of the TurboGrafx, with the European one in the summer of 1990. Dropping the 16 part of the name that Sega had openly mocked them for, the machine would change in colour from black to grey. NEC intended to release the machine in UK, Germany and France initially, with other markets following in due course. As NEC ramped up coverage in the press, the first batch of consoles were quickly produced. Games with multi-language boxes were made up and everything was ready to ship. The European iteration would be bundled with blazing lasers, originally known as Gunhead in Japan, and would be fully compatible with the North American model, but not the original Japanese PC Engine, well, unless you use an expensive adapter that is. Magazines of the time were eagerly anticipating the launch of the console, but were also dubious of whether it would be able to compete with the Sega Mega Drive or the recently announced Super Nintendo, that was also on its way to European shores. NEC had also begun to court European software houses in order to get them to produce new games for the TurboGrafx. The electronics giant felt that the machine needed more Western-styled games and opted to produce a wide range of new titles rather than translate more of the original Japanese HUE cards. Among the developers hired to produce new games for the TurboGrafx were French company Logiciel, who would produce conversions of the popular 16-bit computer games Baby Joe, Squeak, Andre Panzer Kickboxing and Jim Power. In the UK they signed up Gremlin, who signed a deal to create TurboGrafx versions of Venus the Flytrap, Switchblade 2 and Impossible, although only the latter of these actually made it out the door. Another British software company that was hastily signed up was the legendary Psygnosis, who would be asked to provide ports of Lemmings, Shadow of the Beast and Ballistics. Other European developers who signed up included Ubisoft, Rainbow Arts and Bullfrog. According to many of the people involved in producing these games, including Logiciel's development manager Pascal Yari and Gremlin's lead coder Alex Davis, the tools provided by NEC were badly translated and just not fit for purpose, meaning that there were enormous delays in getting the games produced as they had to write their own tools from scratch. The next problem came when NEC discovered that sales in North America had been extremely slow, and it was floundering next to the ever-popular NES and Sega's new console too, which was just starting to grab a real foothold. Many retailers were already reducing the space given to NEC's console to make room for more Genesis games and the upcoming 16-bit Super Nintendo console too. This left NEC with a decision to make, and they quickly decided not to release the console on European shores. This angered the many European developers, who were then forced to repurpose their games for Japan and North America, as well as finding new publishers for them too. But what did NEC decide to do with all these games and consoles that they'd already manufactured, I hear you ask? Well, I'll let Telegame's Peter Mortimer explain further. NEC had decided not to release the TurboGrafx in the UK and were offering the product to various mail-order distributors instead. We were already well known for supporting the Japanese version of the console and managed to buy a few large containers of hardware and software from them. We then distributed this system across the country. However, as it would no longer be manufactured by NEC, the supply of stock and lack of new games soon made it difficult to support as we had hoped, and it was only ever sold in limited numbers. NEC then struck similar deals with companies in both France and Germany to offload those versions of the machine too, and if you search eBay carefully you can still pick up brand new units from the continent, although be prepared to pay some pretty hefty prices. So apart from a new colour and different packaging, what other differences were there? Well, it also provides RGB output as standard, opting for an additional RF modulator that must be plugged in to support this more traditional output. This means that it gives a far better picture than many modded and imported consoles of the time. That's about it really, as those famous turbo controllers remained exactly the same with just two buttons, a circular joypad and turbofire switches. As with other models of the PC Engine, there is just one controller port with a turbo tap adapter needed to plug in more. If you want to see my in-depth review of the UK version of the TurboGrafx, then just click the little link popping up right now in the top right hand corner and you can watch it in full. Sadly, no PAL version of the Super CD-ROM was ever produced, but it will work with the North American model if you do want to track one down, but these are getting extremely hard to find in full working condition now and fetch pretty high prices due to this. The doom and gloom continued to spread as NEC also decided to give up on the console in North America too, and in 1991 they handed over control of the TurboGrafx 16 to Turbo Technologies Inc. The new company, also known as TTI, did their best with the machine and continued to release games up until 1993, when the machine was finally discontinued in North America. All remaining stock was then turned over to a company called TurboZone Direct, who continued to sell the console and games via mail order for the next few years after. Eventual sales in North America hit 2.5 million, a figure that paled in comparison when compared to its closest rivals, and is often deemed, although perhaps unfairly, as a huge failure. Nobody is really sure how many PAL TurboGrafx consoles were sold in the UK or Europe as a whole, but it's rumoured that NEC's initial batch numbered just 200,000 units, with a very small number of games produced in multi-language boxes. These are now highly sought after by collectors. I can clearly remember the huge interest in the PC Engine on these shores when it was first introduced via importers back in 1987. I pored over magazines at the time, drooling over those arcade quality graphics and praying the machine would make it over here. In 1989, I was even lucky enough to play on one when my friend James Cairns brought one through Telegames along with copies of R-Type, Pac-Land, Shinobi and Dragon Spirit. I can't help but think that had NEC got their act together sooner and launched a Western version of the console back in 1988, thus beating Sega and the Mega Drive to the punch, it would have been a huge success and put them on the path to success for many years to come. Ah, what might have been, eh? If you enjoyed this video and want to support me creating more, then please head on over to my Patreon where you can do just that and also get exclusive access to even more great videos too. I've been the Laird and I thank you for watching. Goodbye.